Morning. Yeah, it's still morning. Not for much longer, but yeah, morning coffee. Just haven't been very motivated here lately. You know, it's cold, brrr cold, and I need to get this left hip replaced. So I'm having a heck of a time walking. So I think that bone doctor was pretty eager to get it done. Says I've worn it out. There's no cartilage left. I had the right one replaced in '09. It was the same thing. I'd worn it out. So, you know, I guess they said that the bone had died that time. So, and then at the time they said eventually I'd have to have the other hip replaced. So I'd been expecting it. Probably not any getting out of it. I suppose it'd be nice to be able to walk around like a normal person again. It's getting pretty painful these days to, you know, about every step I take is getting to be where walking's just not much fun. So, um, I don't know. Just could be the January blues too, you know. Here it is. It's late January now. Of course, the first part of January wasn't bad. We lucked out, so, but, you know, when you live in Iowa, you're gonna get it sooner or later. So, yeah, that's just the way it is. Yep. Anyhow, I don't know. I am here drinking this Twix coffee, this 20-ounce styrofoam cup. I like these, so it's the biggest one I can fit under the carrot. So, yeah. And I was buying them in Dollar General. You know, they came in packs of like, I don't know, 14, I think. It was about $3 and something, I think, for, but they discontinued them. I couldn't find them. So I went up to Sam's Club, and by golly, they had a box of 500 for like $23 and something. So I bought that big box of 500. So I have a cup supply now. Yeah. And you know, it's quite a bit cheaper actually than the way I was buying them at Dollar General. So they actually did me a favor. It's going to take me a while to go through 500 cups unless I set up a food trailer or something, which I have thought about doing, you know, just because it was a thought, you know, but uh, could have Grillin' Randy's food trailer. Yeah, there we go. That could be a good name, I suppose. I do have this old camper out here, my son's. And I'll bet you I could get that pretty cheap. It's sitting out here on my farm. It's I think him and his wife have kind of lost interest in that. So I don't know. It's that's one possibility. Yeah, yeah, I could do that, but anyhow, they want me to go to the doctors, that bone doctor wants me to go to the dentist and the cardiologist and I don't know. I already had a cardiologist appointment, so I'm supposed to see them people about once a year. And anyhow, they check on my heart. Been diagnosed with that congestive heart failure. It was been over 10 years now. Still here. So yeah, that's was kind of a scary diagnosis because that's what my grandpa, my mom's dad, died of. But he was 84, so he did live quite a while. You know, he, he had an enlarged heart, and that's it. So far, my heart function has actually improved. So, they got pretty good medicine. They know how to take care of you. So that's that's not bad. I'm still here. I'm looking at my 69th birthday here in what is it? Probably less than 30 days now. So yeah, making another year. February 25th, I'll be 69, which my dad died at 60. My grandpa, his dad, died at 61. And my grandpa's dad was 35 when he died. So I didn't come from a longevity of the male species family. Of course, my great grandpa died when he was digging a cave and it fell in on him, I guess. So that wasn't natural causes, but my dad was heart and my grandpa was that colon cancer stuff got him. So of course that was 1960 when he died, and things have come a long way since 1960. I do remember him, and you know, heck, I was only 3.5 when he died, but the first car I ever ditched was grandpa's grandpa and grandma's 49 Dodge Coronet that they bought new in Afton, Iowa in 1949, and it was here in the driveway of this farm I live at, and of course this is the farm I came home to when I was born. So I moved back here in '08. Haven't gone far in life, I guess. But anyway, back to the ditching the 49 Dodge. Grandpa and Grandma and I were going someplace, and I don't remember where, but Grandpa had me driving. Of course, I was probably 3 years old, that summer, and I was steering that big old Dodge. There's a curve, a gentle curve on this driveway, a long driveway, and then you go down about a quarter mile, and there's like a real sharp corner to get onto the dead end road. So I had that big old steering wheel, like a 49 Dodge has big steering wheel. Okay. And I was of course sitting on I was standing on Grandpa's lap. I wasn't sitting, so okay. So anyway, Grandpa put it in gear and we were going first gear, just idling down the driveway. I made that first curve, no problem, you know. And we got down to where that really sharp 90-degree turn, was to get onto the dead end road. And at that time, if you went straight, there was a gentle ditch there. I mean, it wasn't real severe. It was just a gentle ditch, you know. And there's a field drive there now, but anyway, so you can just drive right out there. But Grandpa, I remember him laughing. I was trying to turn that big old steering wheel, that 49 Dodge, of course, no power steering, you know. And yeah, it 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 we rolled right into that ditch. Grandpa was laughing. I remember him laughing, and Grandma was just sitting over there riding shotgun. I don't remember her laughing, but she was smiling. So then I got in the middle between Grandpa and Grandma, and Grandpa backed the Dodge out of the ditch, and on down the road to the highway we went. And I don't know where we went. Heck, don't remember that part. Of course, you know, I was only 3, so apparently driving the Dodge was a big event because I remember it, and Grandpa and Grandma in there, and that would have been the summer before Grandpa died that October. So yeah, I sure missed him. I remember driving the Fordson Major Diesel same way in the Grove over at Grandpa and Grandma's farm. That driving it through the Grove, was just steering it on Grandpa's lap, you know. So yeah, so that always kind of those that tractor and that car always kind of held a special place for me in my heart, you know. And we've still got the car, so that 49 Dodge, but Grandpa traded that Dad, he traded that Fordson Major Diesel off on a 60 John Deere with a loader, and I I do know I cried when that left, and the implement dealer sold that to, it was some guy down by Corning, and I talked to the guy. I was just a little kid. I don't know, maybe 7 years old at that point. I don't remember exactly when that occurred, but he said that when I got older, I could come down and buy that tractor from him. Of course, I never did have a clue where around Corning he was, but I do know years later, one winter job I took because I was laid off from the dump truck, and I used to get a job every winter because I I thought I needed to make more money than sitting around on unemployment, and that was being lazy or something. Of course, I was kind of a fool. I thought I had to work, you know. I could have just sat around all winter, but and enjoyed myself. But no, I went to work for somebody every winter, and anyhow, I delivered oil, you know, all over southern Iowa in a truck, and I it was towards spring, you know, when the field work was starting. We hadn't got called back to the dump truck yet, but I was down there north of Lenox somewhere, and I saw one of those Fordson Major Diesels working out there in the field. So I thought I'd go back and see, you know, when I had some time, and I never did really get the time, I guess. So dump trucking started, and I didn't have any time, you know, because I spent 80, 90 hours a week in that dump truck. So yeah, uh, yep. Of course, that's how the money was made. Made good money on overtime because I was on overtime every week by Wednesday at noon. So yeah, too bad they didn't not tax the overtime back then because my taxes went up with the overtime. Yeah. Uh-huh. One winter job I had was working at the Bunamatic factory in Creston, which, you know, I it was nice and warm in there. I found that factory work was pretty damn boring, standing there on this line. I was in the welding department, which was running spot welders, so whoop-de-doo. But anyhow, on this line and just weld this part and then weld that, as fast as you could. Yeah, the scenery never changed. It was boring. They didn't pay diddly squat back then. I think I made a minimum wage was 3.35, I think, and I made like a quarter over that after I'd been there long enough. Well, I started out on minimum wage, and I think after 90 days or something, you got a quarter raise. So, and you know, that take home pay was ridiculous. I could not live on that. Yeah, 335 plus the quarter wasn't very good. And it was only 40 hours a week. So when you could make a minimum of 7 back then in a dump truck, which you made way more money because the overtime. And then you'd get on them federal jobs, and that was, my gosh, you'd be making like 16 something an hour when you were on overtime. So that's quite a pay difference. And you know, a guy knew that worked down there. I told him what I made in the dump truck, and he didn't believe me. He said nobody makes that much money. And I had a pay stub, and I guarantee you that they were taking more in taxes out of my check than what he was bringing home. You know, because I'd worked there too, so you know. I knew what their take home pay was. Yeah. And they couldn't understand my bosses, when spring came and I told them, yeah, I'm leaving. I'm gonna go. They couldn't understand why I was quitting. Well, it's called pay. I mean, yeah, I I had a family to support. I couldn't jack around on their pay. What was I supposed to do? Go on welfare too? You know, made no sense to me. But anyway, I'm running to the afternoon now. It's morning coffee into afternoon, which I thought I'd go to town this morning and eat breakfast, but I just could not get motivated to get around. So I had breakfast here at home, which I just microwaved one of those old Red Baron uh, applewood bacon breakfast pizzas, which I kind of like those. Of course, I put 4 slices of mozzarella cheese on top of it before I heated it up. So, I always gotta add stuff to such something like that that's pre-made because it just that always makes it taste better. And more cheese, more better. That's right. Well, have a great day. I suppose I should get around. It's supposed to be up to 20 degrees today, and I need to split wood. Well, first I probably ought to work on the Super M. I got a little hydraulic leak I need to pay attention to. Of course, my log splitter, it takes a tractor to run it, and that Super M does an awful good job on that splitter. So, you know, so I probably should go out and work on it. It looks like it's got 4 hydraulic outlets on the one block control, two valves per. It's got two valves and it's got two couplings per valve, and in the pipe under the coupling, the Pioneer coupling, it looks like that pipe is cracked, and these are sticking out like this, but the one is crooked. Well, actually, it's more like this, you know, but one is crooked. So, and that's the one with a crack in it. Well, I'm not sure what got bumped, but I'm thinking that was already, you know, crooked when I bought that tractor here a few years ago. So, and it didn't leak at that time, but it has started since, and it looks to me like it's getting worse all the time. So, I really need to pay attention to that. And so, I don't know. I have to get out there in the frigid weather and work on it. So, I've got a lot more stuff to do planned for that Super M, because I've got a loader that I'm going to put on it. It's a nice Western Dorf loader with hydraulic bucket. And so, and actually, that Western Dorf is one that's made for a narrow front tractor, which the Super M is narrow front. And so I'm going to put the loader on it. But I bought parts Super M last winter in western Kansas that I went and got. That's kind of a trip from here in Iowa. So I hauled that on my trailer all the way home. My wife was less than pleased with me by the time we got home because she went with me, but I think she thought it was an awful long trip home. I, I didn't get to going too fast, It was, I don't know, my half ton pickup seemed a little squirmy. I needed to use Super Duty, but the mice got in that wiring, so you know, so I used the half ton 2-wheel drive, but and it worked. I looked at the hitch on that, and it's a '01, so it's officially an antique now. It's 26 years old, but before I headed for Kansas last winter, I got under there and looked at that hitch that'd been on there since it was new, and I did not like the rust in that, where you put your receiver hitch in. See, that assembly was rusted, and I'm going, yeah. So I took that pickup up to Schuler Hitch there in Des Moines, and I had them put the heaviest dang hitch they could get on there. So it's got a 10,000 pound capacity hitch on it. It's 12,000 pounds if it's got one of them load leveler hitches. So that was the heaviest one they could put on there. And yeah, and I had them do it, and they put extra straps up to the frame, so I wasn't losing that trailer. I have lost a couple of trailers because I pulled the bumper off of a pickup. Well, a couple of pickups because they got rusty, and actually pulled the receiver hitch off of a Jeep once. That was fastened up there. And anyhow, but all that happened in the field, so I never lost one on the road, and I don't intend to. You know, that's why I crawled under there and looked, because I thought it was worth that 600 and some dollars I spent putting that hitch on, that I didn't kill anybody, or myself, because that can happen if you lose that trailer. There's been people killed that way. So, and I spent all those years as a trucker without hurting anybody. And anyway, I don't intend to start now. So with my own equipment. So, and I could have put a hitch on myself, but as far as this liability stuff goes anymore, I thought it was better just left to the professionals. That way, if I did have a problem, I'd done everything I could. So I always think about stuff like that. That's why I put those Bluetooth radios in the semi, because I had a hands-free device. So that was protecting my employer by spending more on that radio. So the truck had a hands-free device available to anybody that got in there, you know, in case that truck was involved in a serious accident, that could protect them. See, and this kind of stuff I always think about, you know. I suppose it might have been that I took uh, I took courses in business law in college, so maybe that's what that background. I got straight A's in business law, 1, 2, and 3. Probably should have been a lawyer just because I was real good at that kind of stuff, in school. So, and you know, I suppose that would have been a pretty good job because it's kind of fun to argue with people. So, anyway, I guess I should stop yakking because everybody's bored and got left by now anyway. So, have a great day. Happy, whatever day this is. Is it the 27th, 28th? I don't know. I'd have to check. It's late January. All right. Yippee ki yay! Happy trails to you until we meet again. Bye.